Welcome back to the lab. Excuse the wonderful Waikato rain shine in the background there. I don't control the weather despite my godlike appearances. It's clearly a GTR. It actually even says so. There. Have you guessed yet? It's a 33. R33 GTR. It had a wee bit of a face plant, shall we say. A little bit of an altercation with the thing, and the front got a little bit doinky doinked. So there's a lot of expensive stuff in GTRs, just forward of the very front of the motor there. Just this little section here can run into tens of thousands of dollars very quickly to fix that. So this project has it started a few years ago now, and it hopefully will be kicked back in the guts, so to speak, and actually start soon as in motor go again. I've just had, I was looking to see where it was on the bench, just had the water pump off and put a new one on there. The old one had a bent shaft, so the flange was not running true, so there's a bit of a wobble on that pulley there. It's alright, it's fixed. Waiting for a brand new OEM cam belt to come from Auckland. Hour and a half's drive. Should have it tomorrow, we'll see. Here's the old one. It'll be very difficult to spin that around so that you can see it, but trust me when I say that as that goes round it wobbles, so that's not good. Very unfortunate shape for the water pump on these motors. Not sure if someone would have had a laugh, but there you go. I'm sure there's others that look like that. Was a very nice tidy car, still is for the most part. Rearwards of the edge of the bonnet, shall we say, back the rest of the way is all good. There's a number of large boxes kicking around, and there's a bunch of stuff that was on there that's actually come back off again. There it is. There's a small pile there of the intake system. So I'm just going to try and figure out if this standard R33, i.e. not a GTR, cooling fan will work with the GTR intercooler. I think it might be a problem. There are some issues with fittings for the condenser. I'm just going to have a look and see whether we can maybe make that stuff work. 33s weren't all that massively popular. There's not a whole heap of them around, and getting second-hand parts is not the easiest thing to do. So there are some stock 33 parts there that may or may not work. We'll find out soon. Yes, those are cicadas and a tui out there, so if you wish to complain about that noise, you can write to mother.nature@godzone.net. I'm sure she will respond appropriately, or not. Genuine factory cam belt fitted. See, look, it says it's Nissan, that's the arrows because the motor goes that way. Pretty sure anyway. Or maybe that's where it came from. Nissan was up that way somewhere. That was replaced because it's been sat for 4 years or whatever, and hey, why not, let's do it. And the water pump needed doing, so that's an aftermarket water pump. This is like less than 200 bucks, and the factory one was more than $600. This was in stock somewhere, I could just go and get it, and the factory one was 3 weeks from Australia potentially. So just run with the aftermarket one if there's any issues or whatever. It's not a well, I mean, it's not a tiny job, but it's not a huge job to get in there and change it out if there's something that it doesn't do that it should do. So I've done that. I grabbed the ginormous intercooler out of the box and started looking at how it was actually going to fit in here. There's no instructions, there's no brackets, there's no nothing. It's a Phoenix one, and you've got to really just try and figure it out for yourself, which is great because I didn't take this all apart. It's pretty obvious the factory one goes onto these mounts down here, and I know there's some sort of a bracket up the top here, but I've got no dimensions and nothing. So it's going to be a take things very carefully, put the intercooler up in there, figure out roughly where I want it to go, hold it there somehow, whatever it's G-clamps or whatever, and put the bumper on there, and then make sure that that's actually going to work and carry on and all that sort of carry on. But in the meantime, I went to put the, excuse the mess, oh, it's not too bad today, I guess. I went to put this on, and the screw that goes in there, roundy roundy and no holdy holdy. So in the past, we've got a chomped out thread there, so that's always good to do. A couple of steps forward and one backward. So I'll just whip that off and helicoil it, and it'll be, oh, engine very bad. This is all sorted out, that's cool. I noticed something with the crank pulley. When I was taking it off, the key looked slightly damaged. So this is, I believe, probably being loose at some point on the end of the crank, and it has done bad. There's a way to fix this, make my mouth work properly. I'll talk to the customer and we'll move on from there. But the old disco lights for people to complain about. LEDs, frequencies, stuff and things. Old key. There's a good scale for you. New key. So slightly oversized. Pretty much same shape, other than being just slightly thicker. So here's this is quite hard to do one-handed, and in a way that you guys can see. Here's the old key, and the hole is, you can't really see it because I'm pushing and pulling at it, and it's a bit hard to get a scale, but that is wriggling in there. Trust me, you just have to believe me. That is wriggling, and this one here goes in here, and it is a nice snug fit, good fit. What do you want, Sammy? Oh, did you bong your head on that? Oh. Anyone suggesting that it was damaged in the accident and something has hit the front of it and that's what's caused damage to the key, and therefore the crank might be damaged, is rah rah rah, full of it. It hasn't had any impact damage. I believe the bolt's probably been a little bit loose at some point in time, and the pulley's just fretted backwards and forwards, and that's what's done what we're seeing here. So that's going to resolve that. Good as gold, I hope. Let's try. Yeah, it's perfect. See? Right, done. On to the next thing. People are going to grizzle if they can't see it for themselves. So there's no bolt in that, and there's, I'm going to say, 0.5 millimeter of movement at the outside diameter of the pulley. That's not perfect, but it'll be acceptable by the time the bolt goes on there and it's cranked up. I might have to take this top cam belt pulley back off, cam belt cover, sorry. We'll line up the timing marks and just check that we've got our 0 TDC lined up on the bottom pulley there. That's going to be close enough for all intents and purposes. It just needs to be close enough so you can set your baseline timing, and then it has to be tuned from there anyway, right? Things, purple things. Other purple things. There's a lot of stuff going on, and come across a stumbling block, which is to be expected. Big thick radiator, very tight engine bay, fan crashes into fan shroud. Now I'm going to have to do a little bit of checking on this car just to make sure we don't have something like maybe the engine's moved forward 1/2 inch or something like that, you know, from its little whoopsie daisy that it had. That is a possibility. It's probably quite unlikely you'd notice it with the gear lever, and that appears to be in the right spot, and everything else all appears to be pretty good, but I'll look into it, because normally with these aftermarket ones, I see it on the Z32s as well, actually, a little bit of a clearance issue with the fan and the shroud, but it wouldn't be quite as bad as what we're seeing on this one. The fan is literally touching the backside of the shroud just here, so there's room to trim the shroud. As you can see, there's a whole section there that could Foxtrot Oscar and tinker with some things. These bosses would have to be modified to allow that to come further forward, and that would resolve the issue. But as it sits right now, that's pretty close to the radiator. and then actually touching the shroud, so no good. It needs more room, a lot more room than that. You'd want to see at least 10 millimeters of clearance there, so we've got to make up 10 millimeters of room somehow, somewhere. There's a bit to be had here. That can, if I load up those rubber mounts, that can come forward like that quite a wee way, would help. Yeah, so I'm going to go Google our eyes on the old internet and also have a wee look at the mounts and stuff on here and see where we're at, whether there's an issue that we need to deal with. This is a new section across the front of the car, but it was all done on chassis machine and everything all measured up and that, so I don't think we've got an issue with that being too far back that way. And you would see the radiator tilted in relation to the fan, and we're not seeing that. The fan's square to the radiator and to the engine, etc., so don't think it's that. Okay, it's Wednesday morning, so the mighty internet said pretty much what I thought. Yeah, nah bro, that's not going to fit. Can't put the shroud on there with the setup just, you know, just bolted up and it all works. It doesn't. As you can see, there's minimal room. I only call it 10 millimeters looking at from here. It might be 12. But even without a shroud there, like those blades do walk around a little bit depending on the load that's on them and what it's doing. So that's probably, that'll impact with the radiator. So that's a no-go. There's not really, you might be able to see down there, you can see the front of the crank pulley. If I spin a blade around, you can see there's probably 10 mils there as well, maybe tiny little bit more. So there just isn't the room. It fitn't it. This is going to be nothing new. All the GTR guys all know this. I just haven't physically done it myself before. I've seen plenty of engine bays and just haven't bothered paying that much attention to it. So there is, the mighty internet says put electric fans on there and a shroud, and of course that'll work. That'll fit in there. Could probably do that. And we've put that on the table as an option if this first thing that we're going to try doesn't work. I am not a fan of these at all. That wasn't an intended pun. I do not like these at all. I tested these in the past and found that the performance was a bit subpar. It wasn't what they said they were. A lot of people fitting them, not having any problems with them. So, hey, whatever. But ultimately, that's not going to work. And it's not going to work with a shroud. This may actually fit and work with a shroud. And if that's the case, I'm going to say that's probably better than electric fans, because at least it's being driven by a viscous coupling, a viscous clutch in there, and you'll get more drive and more power through that than what you will through a couple of electric motors, small electric motors, in my opinion anyway. Well, we could test that. I used to test that sort of thing back in the day, but I'm too busy for that right now. So I'm going to undo a couple of nuts, pull this off, the white one, put this black one on there, see if it fits in there. If it's looking better, we'll try it with the fan shroud, and that may be the way we go. That's a no with the adapter. Sorry about that. That's crappy lighting, wasn't it? With the adapter in between the fan and the viscous coupling, because these fans are designed for a different coupling, I guess. They don't just bolt straight on. With that on there, it spaces it out further. Does this help if I try and... I can't find where the light's coming from. No, it doesn't help. Too bad. It's the way it is. That doesn't work, so... I own this particular fan. The customer's got one at home, so I'm going to take this back out, modify the actual fan so it bolts straight onto the coupling, and that's going to gain us about that much, which is probably going to be enough to get away with it, I reckon. That's us. That's us. That's got, I don't know, a bit more than the finger through there. Pretty fat finger. That's going to be fine. These blades are not going to move as far as that goes around. Problem solved. There's a lot of light coming in and screwing that up. I'm going to have complaints from the cheap seats. Is it any better this way? Sorry about all scratchy noises. Yeah, it's better this way. There you go. So that will work. So that's not going to be a standard fan, aftermarket fan. It's got to be tweaked slightly to go onto the fan clutch. I haven't actually done that yet properly. It's just kind of hacked. Good as gold. We don't have that horrible pesky light coming in that we had this morning. That's mint. Heaps of room. My hand in there like that, see? Lots of room. We're not going to have any issues there. That's good. I don't, like I say, I don't really like that particular style of fan, but in this instance, that's going to work for what we want. The factory one simply wasn't, without making the car 20 mils longer that way. So next up, I'm going to pull some fancy tubes out of boxes to go through here. I've put a couple more of the air conditioning tubes in the general areas here. Everything fits except basically this one that comes up here and buggers off that way at 90 degrees actually needs to go onto there, so that's probably getting chopped off, and that's getting chopped off, and we'll do a couple of fittings and a little hose. I may run the hose all the way down and off over there somewhere. You could potentially, if you wanted to, do it in one piece from there all the way to the firewall. Over there, there's a smaller fitting below that one. Looks a little different now, doesn't it? Don't worry, the blue's not staying. It's Thursday midday, exactly, lunchtime. Intake system, bit of a rejig, a bit of a upgrade or change or modification into any word you feel fit. Old stuff on the floor. Don't need most of that. Some of this stuff here might be used again. I think that's probably the hard way to go about getting your air from your recirc valves. All the stuff just lying on the floor. That all needs cleaning anyway before it would ever go back in. So recirc valves are over on this side, aka blow-off valves, and then there's a big plastic tube that runs across underneath the bottom of the car here in that general area somewhere. Comes up here, it splits into two systems again and goes through all that guff there and goes back into the intake system there, that pipe there, and also there, that pipe there. So it might still fit with the different orientation of stuff and things. It might still just go back in there, or it might be a lot easier just to get some silicon and some aluminium elbows and tubes and just make something up a bit like this and just get it out through there nice and clean and simple and tidy. And we'll see if he wants to spend the money on that sort of thing, possibly. I mean, if he's doing this sort of thing, that all needs a polish. Got to get rid of these blue couplers. We've got to figure out whether we're using, probably not these filters, right? These are a bit old and might cause problems going forward. He's got brand new filters. And that's exactly what it is. It's true to label. It's a super suction kit there, Apexy. So they bolt straight onto, as you can see, onto the airflow meter. We're just going to make sure the orientation of everything is correct with that system to use those filters with the factory airflow meters. A bit of a tongue twister today on there. That'll do. I just was talking to the owner about the blue on these ones as well. That one there on the throttle, and there's another one further down, quite easy to see, so we should delete those, see how much difference that makes to the engine bay. Just here you go. So GTR being rebuilt, reassembled, whatever. Dirty lens on the phone, get over it. Should be not too much more effort to get the front of this thing back together. I say that very stupidly. There's little things like there's a bush missing off a clip in here. There's a little bit of a panel beating to do with this. I've marked it because it doesn't quite line up properly. I've indicated with my old Vivid there. There's a lot of plumbing needs to go back in. There's the fuel that's in the tank's 4 years old and has to come out. The engine oil has to come out, be changed. The coolant, what was left in the motor, needs to be flushed out of it. Fresh probably run it on the engine flush for a little bit actually, and then put fresh coolant in there and then check for leaks and stuff. There's all sorts of things where you think it's going to be all good and you'll just put this piece on here and like this hose here, you think it's all good, we'll just put that back on, and then it's not all good. That's actually, you can see that's got a bit of brown staining around that. That's let go when the poor thing had a punch in the face. All this stuff's giving it all a bit of a knock, so we'll make it look beautiful while we're at it. I wonder if there's some black socks that we can get to go over the filters and add to the, you know, hide that. Of course there's a little bit of purple everywhere, but that's fine. Rightio, there you go. It's nearly 4 o'clock. I'm going inside for a cold drink. All right, cheers, thanks, bye.